Just now, we had a discussion about some of the basic concepts in OBGY in the previous lectures. But today I'm going to cover one of the most important things they can be asking, and also the basic thing that we are supposed to know is the normal labor. So today my topic will be a discussion on the normal labor. What is the mechanism of normal labor? What exactly? These are the points we're going to cover in this particular lecture. That we have a definition of the normal labor, normal as well as abnormal labor definitions. Then we have the factors that affect the normal labor. Like for example, we understood about in the last class, there are there's a definition of a normal labor. That means it should be spontaneous in onset, undue prolongation should not be there. Both baby as well as mother should be normal, and also it should have minimum injury to the baby as well as to the mother. That is what we are going to cover in this particular presentation. We also going to cover in this particular lecture about the premonitory signs of the labor. Like in the last lecture, I think we covered about the early labor. We covered about the false labor also in the last lecture. We also covered about the false labor as well as the early labors. So we have certain premonitory signs. Like I think remember in the last lecture I also covered about there's something called as a show. Remember, show is the uh, the yes, show is the discharge. That means by pink color mucus plug. That is what is commonly shed in that particular case. We have that is what is a show. That is what, and also we have some other certain other things as the premonitory signs in the labor. In this particular lecture, we are also going to differentiate between a true labor and a false labor. Remember that that is what is a true labor contractions as well as a false labor contraction. That means we have certain criteria in which the labor is false labor. That means the contractions are not going to lead to the delivery of the baby. That is what is the true as well as false labor. We also going to cover about what exactly the thing that causes the onset of normal labor. I think in the last lecture also we had covered about there is a distension of the abdomen or the uterus can give rise to initiating the contractions, as well as we have the other factor that is responsible is the, remember, fetal pituitary, maturation of the fetal pituitary gland that leads to initiation of the normal labor. And we also going to learn about the stages of the labor. Remember, so this is what is one of the most basic topic. Before we go and understand about the abnormal labors, we are going to discuss about the normal labor as well as the stages of the normal labor and the other topics. So this is what is another very important lecture we're going to learn. Now remember, the definition of the normal labor goes like this. It is a physiological process in which fetus, placenta, and the membrane, remember, these are together called as products of conception. Together they are called as products of conception. That is, the fetus, placenta, as well as the membranes are expelled through the birth canal after the viability. Remember, this is what is very important. I can say this is what is after the viability. Viability is in Western countries, it is about 22 weeks of gestation. Remember, what is the age of viability? Is the age of the gestational age at which the fetus is going to have independent survival. In the Western countries, it is 28 weeks. In Indian countries, till now, it is considered to be 28 weeks. Because in Western countries, they are able to make even a 22 weeks baby survive. But in Indian countries, they have about 28 weeks of gestation. Remember, now every word in this definition is important. Remember, they're going to ask exam. That is, it's a physiological process. Of course, this is not any pathology. Labor is a physiological process by which the fetus, placenta, and the membranes. Remember, everything has to come out. Sometimes only fetus comes out, placenta is retained. That is not a normal labor, or that is not a normal labor. So remember, it is the fetus, placenta, and the membranes. Together they are called as POCs, stands for products of conception. Stands for products of conception. Are expelled through the birth canal after the age of viability. Of course, after the age of viability, this is what is for the Western countries. For Indian countries, I talked about was 28 weeks. Was 28 weeks. Now, this is a series of events. Now, what exactly going to put? Now, remember, there are a series of events that is occurring in the genital organs that give rise to expulsion of products of conception. of out of the mother's womb. Now remember, let's come to the Weeks criteria for the normal labor. Let's come to the Weeks criteria for the normal labor. It can be a spontaneous onset or an induced labor. Remember, induced labor or an induction of the labor is a condition where the labor is artificially produced. Labor is artificially produced. Remember, like for example, we have a post-dated pregnancy in which the patient is crossing the date. The date is already over. In that case, it is an induced one. And if it is automatically getting started, it is what is called as a spontaneous labor. It is what is called as a spontaneous labor. So it can be either spontaneous or it can be an induced. Spontaneous or induced. These are the two types of, and depending upon the onset of labor, we can have two types, spontaneous or induced. It can also be depending upon the term or preterm. Remember, term labor is 37 completed weeks. Term labor is 37 completed weeks. So it's a term, or if the preterm labor is prior to 37 weeks. Remember, total pregnancy we consider is about 40 weeks. So 37 to 40 weeks is considered to be term. If it is before 37 weeks, it is called as a preterm. 37 to 42 weeks, okay. There's some of the books they mention about 42 weeks, but for practical purposes, it is taken to be as the 40 weeks. We also have post-term pregnancies in which we have the labor which is starting after 42 weeks. The labor which is started after 42 weeks. And post-dated pregnancy is what is after 40 weeks. Remember, these calculations are very important so that we can also take efforts to expel the babies earlier if the baby has got some problem, because as the day or expected date of delivery EDD approaches, there are certain complications can start occurring in the baby, and because of that sometimes we may also have to induce the labor. That means patient has gone into the expected date of delivery is over and we can go into induction of the labor. Remember, this is what is the calculations of either it can be spontaneous or it can be induced, or it can be term, preterm, or even sometimes a post-term. Even sometimes some post-term or post-dated pregnancy. So remember, this is what is the calculation. We also have certain terminologies or certain important definitions. Like for example, parturient is a patient in labor, or parturition, all of us know, is a mechanism of labor. So parturient is the patient who is there in the labor. Parturition is a process of labor that we all know. Now, delivery is expulsion of the viable fetus, and that is what is a normal labor. That is what is a normal labor. Remember, it is an expulsion of the viable fetus out of the mother's womb. Delivery can take place without labor also in case of cesarean section. Remember, labor is always initiating the contractions and giving out the birth of the baby, whereas delivery is expulsion of the products of conception even without contraction, and that is what is an cesarean section, LSCS commonly called. So delivery is expulsion of the products of conception even without the labor contraction. So delivery has got normal delivery as well as cesarean section, whereas labor is always a normal labor. Always a normal labor. That is what can be, some of the terminologies can be understood. Now, normal labor, by definition, it is what is called as an eutocias, and abnormal labor is called as an dystocias. Remember, eutocia and dystocia are the two important terminologies. So, we just had the definition. It's a physiological process by which fetus, placenta, and the membranes are expelled to the birth canal after the full-term pregnancy. It is not only the baby, but also the placenta as well as the membranes called as chorion and amnion are expelled out. Now, what are the criteria for the normal labor? Remember, we will call a labor a normal labor only if it fulfills the following criteria. Only if it has got following criteria. Like for example, first important point was it should be spontaneous in onset and at the term. If the labor starts preterm, I will not call a normal labor. or even a post-dated, I will not call a normal labor. Will not call a normal labor. Other criteria is it should be a vertex presentation. That means the head of the baby should be down. As you see in the picture, head of the baby should be low down. Remember, in the last lecture we studied about the presentations and presenting part and all those things. So in this case, can have the vertex presentation. That is, head should be down. So if the head is up, commonly called as a breech, I will not say breech is a normal labor. It's an abnormal labor. Breech stands for the buttocks are there in the presenting part. Now the labor should be without any prolongation. That means it should finish in time. Because remember, more the time the patient is there in the labor, more complications can happen. So because of that, we don't want patient to go into or remain in the labor for longer time. That is what it should be finishing without any prolongation. It should be terminating naturally, natural termination without any external applications of maybe forceps or vacuums. And it should have a healthy mother and a healthy baby. So if the labor has got these criteria, then only I can say it is a normal labor. Otherwise, the labor is not normal. So you can also take the screenshots of this. If you want any help, you can also take the screenshots. Now, what are the factors that affect the normal labor? Remember, what exactly are the factors that depends upon that the labor depends upon? Remember, commonly they are termed as the factors like, for example, we have factors of power, factor of passage, and factor of the passenger. Remember, what exactly are the factors on which normal labor depends upon? It depends upon the power produced by the mother. Remember, more is the power produced or more is the force of contraction, better chances are the patient will go into normal labor. It also depends upon the passage. That means the pelvis, the shape of the pelvis, the diameters of the pelvis. If the diameter of the pelvis are adequate, then the labor can also occur normally. And also depends upon the passenger. That means the baby. It depends upon the position of the baby. It depends upon the weight of the baby. It depends upon the presentation of the baby. So remember, to have a normal labor, we have three factors responsible. Power should be adequate, passage should be adequate, and passenger should be in a normal position. So these are the factors that affect the normal labor. That is what we talked about power. What exactly in the power? That means we have force of expulsion. That means primary power is muscle contraction of the uterus. We want muscle contraction of the uterus should be adequate, without which the contraction or maybe normal labor is not possible. And remember, the contractions of the uterus produces changes in the cervix. That is, cervix starts dilating gradually, and cervix also getting effaced. Remember, effacement is I talked about in the last class. The thinning of the cervix. It is a thinning of the cervix. That is what is called as an effacement. So remember, in the factor that is power, we want the involuntary contraction of the muscle as well as cervix should dilate, cervix should get effaced, or thinning of the cervix should also be there. We also have secondary powers, like for example, contraction of the abdominal muscles, voluntary bearing down efforts. It's like for example, we increase the abdominal muscle contraction so that the labor also can progress faster. Just like for example, when you're constipation, you also add the abdominal muscle contraction. Similarly, when the labor is supposed to be progressed, labor also requires sometimes involuntary efforts for contractions. The second factor that was responsible for producing a normal labor is the passage. That means how exactly are the diameters of the pelvis. Remember, diameter of the pelvis should be adequate so that the baby can come out easily. baby can come out easily. That is what is a bony passage I'm talking about. The yes, the bony passage I'm talking about should be a pelvis, should be an adequate diameter. And third important part was the passenger, that means the baby, fetus, placenta, membranes, liquor amni, as well as amniotic cord. These all should be in a normal shape and sizes. If there are if they are not of normal shape and sizes, then they can lead to abnormalities in the labor. Abnormalities in the I'm talking about fetal head. Most important deciding factor is the fetal head because this is the maximum diameter going to come out through maternal pelvis. It is the maximum diameter going to come out through maternal pelvis. We also have fetal presentation. That means how exactly is the attitude of the baby. How exactly is the attitude of the baby. That means how exactly is the position of the fetal head. Fetal lie I was talking about. Remember, it is a longitudinal lie or a transverse lie. Transverse lie cannot deliver simply, and also the fetal attitude. So remember, these are the factors in the passenger that is responsible for a normal labor. Also, what should be the position of the mother during labor? Remember, there are various theories, various institutes has got different positions, but frequent position is always a lithotomy position. Let me show you the picture. Here is not shown. Now we have a position called as a lithotomy position, in which patient is sleeping in a supine position and the legs are hang to the leg resting positions. Yeah, leg rest like that. We also have sometimes an upright position, left lateral positions, sitting position. There are various positions. The most common accepted position that you should know is the lithotomy position. The lithotomy position. That is what should be the normal position of the labor. Now, any deviation of the labor apart from all these things is called as an abnormal labor. It's called as an abnormal labor. Let's come to the signs of labor. Let's come to what are the signs and symptoms that gives an idea about an onset of spontaneous labor. The first thing I was talking about was lightning. Remember, lightning we talked about in the last class. That means in the, let's say this is what is a, yes, this is what is a cervix, this is what is a fetal head. In the last month, what happens? There is a descent of the baby's head in the pelvis. And because of that, the fundal height also reduces. The fundal height also reduces. Now remember, when the fundal height reduces, that gives a relief for the patient because the fundus was compressing on the diaphragm. The patient had breathing difficulty. So when the fundus comes down, because of the engagement of the head, this patient gets a relief, and that is what is called as a lightning. That is what is called as. I'm going to discuss this in the next few slides. Lightning is one of the most that comes in the 9th month, or sometimes just before the labor, either in the 9th month or sometimes just before the labor. This can be that. We also have some cervical changes. We also have certain cervical changes, like for example, starts thinning up as well as cervix starts getting dilated. Right. And we also have the cervix starts getting taken up. I'm going to show it to you. Yes. And what exactly is the lightning that I was talking about? It was sinking of the baby's head or presenting part into the true pelvis. That was an actual deep part of the pelvis, which takes place about 2 to 3 weeks before the onset of labor, which takes place about 2 to 3 weeks before the onset of labor. In case of primigravidas and during labor in the multigravidas. Remember, lightning occurs differently in primigravidas and multigravidas. Primigravidas it occurs 2 to 3 weeks before. Multigravidas just before the labor. Just before the labor. Now this is what a lightning. This is what the sign of the patient going into labor. Patient is maybe going into labor. That is what is the first sign. It is because of the pulling up of the lower pole of the uterus. When lower part of the uterus is pulled up, automatically the head is going to go down. Automatically the head is going to go down. That is what then, yes, lower pole of the uterus is going to get pulled up. It is because of the lower uterine segment is into the wall. Let me show it to you with some diagram. Okay. It diminishes the fundal height I talked about, and hence minimizes the pressure on the diaphragm. And because of that, this is what is called as lightening. That means patient feels light after that. Patient feels light after that. Mother experiences a sense of relief from the mechanical cardiorespiratory problems. Breathing becomes easier, and heart and stomach can also function better because the fundus was compressing on the heart through the diaphragm, of course, through the diaphragm. And this is what is described as the lightning. Because of that, this is described as the lightning. Lightning, right? This is what I was talking about. Fetal head, which was much higher before, now enters into the pelvis. Now tries to enter into the pelvis. That is what is called as a lightning. And also the diaphragm is pushed, or fundus is pushed more forward, and this is what is going to go more posterior. And we also have certain cervical changes. That is what is coming up. That is what is called as a ripening of the cervix. Ripening is of the cervix. That means cervix becomes soft, cervix becomes effaced. Effacement is the thinning of the cervix and admits one finger, and then cervical canal is dilatable. Let's say this is what is the fetal head. It was initially the cervix was long, then if you can say cervical length has reduced, it becomes almost very thin, and then the cervix starts dilating. And then the cervix starts dilating. This is what, as the labor progresses, these changes are going to increase. We have cervix not effaced in this case, 2 centimeters fully effaced, that means fully become thin, and is about 3 centimeters dilated, and about 8 centimeters dilated, almost fully dilated. Now remember, full diameter of the baby's head is 9.5 centimeters. So fully dilated is 9.5 centimeters. That is what admits the fetal head to come down. That is what admits the fetal head to come down. Remember, when the labor is started, cervix also has got certain changes. There are certain cervical changes that start, and the cervical changes are called as dilatation as well as effacement. Dilatation as well as effacement. That is what is called as dilatation as well as effacement. As well as effacement. Now, initially, there can be some false pains. Remember, we talked about false pains and the true pains. False pains are irregular, causing the uterus to contract and relax, whereas false pains are less regular. They are less strong and do not cause any cervical changes. Do not cause any cervical changes. This is what is exactly the mechanism by which the cervix started getting taken up. Let's say this is what is the initial cervix. Let me show it with the black color. Initial cervix. Then cervix starts becoming taken up, going up, going up. This is what is the complete cervix going up. This is what is called as the taking up of the cervix. Taking up of the cervix. Right? Then initially the labor contractions are very less. That is what is called as false labor pains. Irregular but sometimes regular contractions that do not progress into their frequency. That is what is a false labor. The contraction that do not result into any the contraction that doesn't result into any cervical changes. That is what is called as a false labor. That is what is called as a false labor. This is what is so initially before the patient goes into true labor, patient has a spurious labor, or also called as a false labor. Also called as false labor. Then what are the characteristics of the false labor? They are dull in nature, confined to the lower abdomen and the groin. They only are there in the lower abdomen and the groin. They are not related to hardening of the uterus. They don't make the uterus hard without any effect on the cervical dilatation. Cervix do not dilate because of that. Remember, cervix dilate only because of the true contractions. Only because of true contractions. And they may be relieved by even the positional change or sometimes an enema also. Patient is given enema and that may also subside the contraction. In case of false labor pains, I'm talking about. In case of false labor. What are the true labor pains? True labor pains are those which are painful, regular, and increasing frequency and intensity. And very commonly is an appearance of the show. Remember, what exactly is a show? Let me say this is what is the cervix, this is what is the uterus, and this is what is the baby. When the initial contraction start, the initial contraction may expel the blood clot that was there in the cervical canal out. Red color blood clot. And this blood clot is called as a show. That is what is called as a show. Show stands for the blood stained mucus that is coming out. That is what is called as the show. Right. That is what is called as a show. So true labor pains is always along with the show. And it leads to progressive effacement and progressive dilatation of the cervix. It leads to progressive effacement and progressive dilatation of the cervix. And it also leads to bag of water formation. Let me show you bag and water. Yes. So this is what is the mucus plug I was talking about. The cervix starts dilating, this mucus plug is thrown out. And that is what is called as a show. That is what is called as a show. And this is what is a bag of water formation. Now, you can also zoom it if you want to see properly. This is what is a bag of water. So as the labor contraction will start, the liquor will come in front of the baby's head. And this is what is called as bag of water formation. And this is the sure sign of labor. This is what is a sure sign of labor. Because a false contraction is not going to produce any changes in the bag of water. Not going to produce any changes in the bag of water. So this is what the table that describes about true pains and the false pain that we just talked about. The true pains, it is regular, is irregular, gradually shortens, remains long. Intensity increases, intensity remains the same. And those are the same point we discussed just now. We also discussed about some of the theories of onset of labor in the previous lecture. That means sometimes it can be because of overstretching of the uterus. Uterus gets distended with the baby and the baby starts, and the overstretching of the uterus initiates the contraction, mechanical stimulation. And we also have the fetal pituitary gland maturity, right? When the fetal pituitary gland matures, let me show it to you. Yes, this is what is a fetal pituitary gland. The fetal pituitary gland matures, that can lead to onset of normal labor, onset of the normal labor. The same thing they are mentioned. Now we also have the third theory, and they say it is because of increase in the prostaglandin synthesis. It can be, now remember, prostaglandins are powerful contractors of the uterus. Powerful contraction of the uterus. So as the labor comes to the expected date of delivery, prostaglandin produced will be increases, and that leads to contractions to be initiated more and more, and that leads to oxytocin to be released. Remember, these are all theories. Prostaglandin initiates the oxytocin release, and all of us know oxytocin increases the force of contraction. Increases the force of contraction of the uterus. So this is what also some of the, yes. Let's come to the important part. That is what is the stages of labor. Now this is what is very commonly asked in the exams. As the labor starts getting contraction, the first stage of labor is a stage when the onset of contraction up to the full dilatation of the cervix. That is what is the first stage. Remember, starting from onset of contraction to the full dilatation of the cervix. The second stage of labor is from the full dilatation of the cervix to expulsion of the baby. To the expulsion of the baby. Starting from full dilatation to the expulsion of the baby. Third stage is the expulsion of the placenta. And fourth stage is observing patient. for 1 hour. For 1 hour. Remember, this is what is the most important slide in the whole. First stage of labor is onset of contraction to the full dilatation of the cervix. Cervix full dilated, that we all know, it is about 9 centimeters. It's about 9 centimeters. Then second stage of labor is after the full dilatation to the expulsion of the baby. The baby comes out. Third stage is expulsion of the placenta. And fourth stage is observing the patient for 1 hour. Observing the patient for 1 hour. I'll take the screenshot right now that you can have it for your reference. You can have it for your reference. Let me show you to some of the important days. The first stage, second stage is expulsion of the baby. Third stage is also called as placental stage. Also called as the placental stage. That means begins after the birth of the baby. Remember, our second stage is birth of the baby. Third stage starts at the birth of the baby and ends with the expulsion of the placenta and the membrane. Remember what happens? The baby has come out. Baby has come out. Uterus contraction increases. Decreases the basal blood flow, but it causes the separation of the placenta, thickening of the surface area of the myometrium, and that leads to expulsion of the placenta. This takes about 15 to 30 minutes. 15 to 30 minutes. And fourth stage is at least for 1 hour you observe after the placenta and membrane has come out. After the placenta and membrane has come out. Remember, stages of labor is commonly asked as an important question in the normal labor. Now, how much exactly is the time required for the normal labor? Remember, first stage, second stage, third stage, and fourth stage. As we know, first stage is from the contraction to full dilatation. This is expulsion of the baby. This is what is the third stage of placenta. So for primigravidas, it takes about 6 to 8 hours in the latent stage. Active phase is 6 hours, and transition phase is 1 to 2 hours. So together it becomes 11 to 12 hours in primigravidas. In multigravidas, logically is going to take less time, 6.5 hours, because multigravidas already has delivered once, so they're going to take less time than usual to deliver the baby. In second stage is about 45 minutes approximately, and is about 15 to 20 minutes for multigravidas. Remember, all stages of labor is going to be lesser timings in case of multigravidas than primigravidas. They're going to take less time the multigravidas than primigravidas. And third stage is approximately 15 to 30 minutes, 15 to 30 minutes, 30 minutes for all, for primaries as well as multis. And of course, fourth stage is 1 hour observation. That is also same. So remember, the time taken for the first and second stage depends upon the primi as well as multigravida. Primigravidas in the first stage requires 12 hours. And multigravida stage is about 6 to 7 hours. 6 to 7 hours. So as we all know, first stage starts from the onset of labor pains to the full dilatation that we talked about. Cervical stage or dilation stage is what is they call it as. It usually takes 11 to 12 hours in primigravidas and 6 to 8 hours in multigravidas. It has got 3 sub-stages: latent phase, active phase, and transitional phase. Latent phase is up to 4 centimeters. 4 to 7 centimeters is an active phase, and transitional phase is 8 to 10 centimeters. So, on 0 dilatation to 10 centimeters is what is an first stage. First stage time. What are the sign symptoms of the first stage? Sign symptoms are painful uterine contraction, cervical dilatation, membranes also rupture, and also we have effacement of the cervix that we all know. Effacement of the cervix. The pains are usually, there are about 3 to 4 contractions per 15 to 30 minutes and also lasting for 30 seconds. That is what is dilatation and effacement that we also have understood. Dilatation is from 0 centimeters to 10 centimeters, and effacement is a thinning of the cervix. Remember, in the diagram we have understood that the cervix starts getting taken up. That is what is a thinning of the cervix, and it is mentioned in terms of percentage. 0% is no effaced, 100% is almost completely effaced. So dilatation is measured in centimeters and effacement is measured in percentage. Measured in percent. It is easy. That is easy. This is what is about effacement and depth. This is what is about 0% effaced. It means with the black color. 50% effaced. Half of the surface has taken up, and it is about 100% effaced. 100% effaced. That is what is easy to understand. Now, so effacement, and this is what is the progressive dilatation they have shown. Progressive dilatation of the internal os. And of course, this bag of membranes are formed, and then this bag of membrane will burst to produce and liquor to come out. Right. So this is what is a quick presentation on the normal labor. I will also forward some of my videos to you so that you can also go through the normal videos, normal labor videos, and then maybe in the next lecture we can start with some of the other abnormal labors. So I will take a short maybe a single episode today, and